Welcome to The Nation this week on Bernama TV. As always, we take a look at stories and issues trending locally and globally. Joining me for this edition is Haji Badlishah Baharin, the President of IKRAM, and Farida Hamid, a communications coach. She's also is and always will be an amazing journalist. Thank you very much for taking time off to be with us, and it's great to have the both of you here. Lots been happening this week. Of course, the first thing on our story list today is Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. That's a big story and everyone's talking about it. So I've been told, since everyone's talking about it, we should talk about it too. So, I mean, the way I'm looking at this is getting the support, the optics, the way this is going out into the public, and that's something that worries me. So the Prime Minister has come out and said that, look, this is being done by the MACC, and even if it's being done by the MACC independently, the optics that it's creating for the people, or the people on the ground, or rakyat marhain, so to speak. So where do we begin this? G, maybe we can start with you. What do you think of this whole thing and where we are at this point?
Okay, now in this respect, I feel that the charging of Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin in the courts today is actually a manifestation of the fight against corruption. So now, in a certain way, it's also showing to the public that the government, or rather the enforcement agency, is trying to make its mark on the nation by charging people, no matter what position they are, whether they were former prime ministers or they were in high positions and so on. But if there is evidence, in this case, I feel there is evidence. I don't know the details of the case, But if there is evidence, then a person can be brought to court to be charged on whatever acts that are relevant to the case of corruption case in this matter. So I feel that this is a strong signal sending to the public that we are very against corruption. Now I'm part of Rasuah Busters team.
Oh, right.
I am right. Really. I am part of Rasuah Busters team. We've been having press conferences.
But how is this different, G? 4 prime ministers ago, we were saying the same thing. Every time we took someone in, we were always saying, okay, we want to get rid of corruption. And here we are today, and we're still working on it. Now, I applaud the work by Rasuah Busters, and I know the work that you guys have been putting in. But it's just people on the ground and how they look at it. They look at it differently, because politically things are being played, in many ways. And if MACC is doing a great job too, that can be played against them. This is the problem with the social media situation within the country. Farida, what do you say?
Politics is perception, isn't it, Gerard? It's about political messaging. And as you said, this is nothing new, arresting political heavyweights, arresting political heavyweights to show that when a new government comes in, we're going to fight corruption. But the optics, of course, for their supporters is going to say, this is a political witch hunt. You'll have it no matter which PM or which senior politician is arrested, because that's the narrative that works with their base. Right? So I don't think this is anything new. I think the other side, whoever is supporting Tan Sri Muhyiddin, will be angry, will be upset. There will be a group of people. The other side is going to be saying, great, we should go after these people. But in the end, it's the evidence. It's the evidence that needs to come up.
It's the evidence and how that evidence is presented to the public, and that's the most important in working on corruption. Well, just to digress a little, the work on corruption, there were lots of talk shows with regards to corruption by Rasuah Busters. What's happened? It's been very quiet as of late.
We just made a press conference on the 22nd of February,
right,
making demands on the Prime Minister, PM10. Kita kata, we sit there, the tuntutan Rasuah Busters terhadap PM10.
Okay.
So in that, we presented the demand for institutional reforms, like for example, the separation of powers between Attorney General and the Prosecutor General. We want the government to enact a political financing bill Okay, we've been hacking over that for the past few
the
years.
political financing bill.
And then we want also the full implementation of the National Anti-Corruption Plan. It's been there for a few years, but only, I think, at the most now, maybe only about 50% is being implemented. But there are also other things, with the National Anti-Corruption Plan, which we should have been implemented by the government.
So with this press conference you had on the 22nd, what was the traction? Was there good traction from the press?
There was good. The government responded lah. They said that okay, we heard you. Now we're going to bring the political financing bill pretty soon in Parliament. We hope so lah, in Parliament. Okay, and then they will also talk about enacting the government Procurement Act, and then there was also talk about moving some of the implementing some of those national anti-corruption plan and so on. I mean, there was some traction lah. We hope, but we want to push it further lah. We are not only asking for this. We are also trying to we seen the speaker. We met the speaker. We are suggesting to have to form all-party parliamentary group on anti-corruption, governance and integrity.
Well, I hope that happens really very soon. But whilst we're talking about corruption, anyone who's arrested under corruption goes through the syndrome called the Nelson Mandela syndrome. It's like everyone becomes an overnight hero when they're arrested for corruption. And this has been a pattern for some years. Now, let's get to Farida's topic first. She's put together quite a list for us, a laundry list of topics. This year's International Women's Day theme is Embrace Equity. Now, for a long while, the theme has been about gender equality, which in your mind is more important, equality or equity? When you look at that too, which one comes first?
So let's look at the meaning of those words,
Okay.
So
jump in when you want.
Equality,
Equality
to me is about everything like a level playing field. You may have words like fairness, justice, and all of that. But in my opinion, equality is a very Western concept, and I actually do not understand why we in the East kind of just jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, equality is what we want. Because you know what? I don't want to be equal to a man. There are things I'm much better at than a man, and there's things a man is much better at than a woman. So why do we pursue this very Western concept of equality? On the face of it, of course, it sounds great. Oh, we want everything to be equal. But we all know, right? Nothing in this world is equal. Just talking about corruption, right? A politician who's arrested for corruption or charged with corruption, if they have high-priced lawyers, they can get away with millions. But we know in the news, for example, I think sometime last year or whatever, a woman who stole 2 packets of Milo was sentenced to 14 months in jail. So what equality are we talking about? Because technically, equality, the only exception is equality under the law. But even the law is subjective.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with what Farida said. Because equity means fair treatment. Equality is a very Western value-loaded word lah. So, but equity is the much better word, because equity means you're providing the necessary support to succeed, to make people succeed. The resources as well to succeed.
So it's interesting that if you read whatever Farida is doing, she gains a lot of traction on LinkedIn. I noticed this. Did you put it out on LinkedIn? And what has the response been from women?
I think people are there's 2 sides of this argument, right? So there's many people who think the equality argument is ultimately still what we should go for, but there's an increasing group of people who say equity is what we should go for, and I believe equity is much more important because it's access to the resources. How can you have a stake in the outcome, which is equity, if you cannot access the resources so that you can have the opportunities? I give you a very simple example. Remember when COVID came and we did all this online learning, remember? And we all remember the case of this young girl in Sabah who had to climb the tree, remember?
Yes, of course.
To access the internet. So online learning on the face of it is equal. We all want all our young people to have online learning. But the equity is not there because the resources are not there. A child in the Klang Valley and a child who is in the rural areas of Sabah or Sarawak do not have the connectivity or the stable internet or the affordability. So we have to talk about equity long before we even think about equality. In my opinion.
Coming from a Malay Muslim group, actually we've been talking about equity for a long time.
Right.
You know, because you see the role of women in society. I agree with you that men and women, they're not equal because we are created differently by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. But equity in terms of providing the right resources, making a person to succeed, whether man or woman, you know, will create outcomes far greater than just, you know, shouting about equality and so on. You see, I give you an example. If you are, say, calling for equality, then you give the same, you know, access to a person who comes from a very rich family and person who comes from a poor family.
No, I think it's very simple. If we want equality in that sense, then everyone should just play in the World Cup next time. That's a simple way to rock this or to break this down. Moving very quickly from that to Rahmah community as a catalyst for social cohesion. This is the topic you've picked for us today.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Now, we've been doing this work on with the project Perumahan Rakyat flats for quite some time. Not only us alone, but also together with other NGOs, other organisations as well. We work together. For example, Gabungan Bertindak Malaysia, GBM, MyPJ is also with IKRAM, you know, doing work on this PPR. Right. Now, what we do, Gerald, in the PPR is try to uplift the socio-economic status. At the same time, we are also trying to increase the academic performance of the children. But how do we do that? You know, we target the parents. Normally, people give tuition to the students, you know, for them to increase their academic performance. But this time around, we target the parents, because the parents themselves, they are also ultimately responsible for the students' academic performance. They provide the resources, they provide the facilities, they provide the conducive environment for the children to perform academically better. You know, so we thought that by targeting the parents, making them aware what are their duties and responsibilities, making them really ensure that they provide the conducive environment in their houses, you know, we find that through that way, the economic performance of the students also, the children also increase.
So, do you have any statistics on this? You know, we're always looking for numbers these days.
That's right.
The age of data analytics.
That's right. Okay, in this letter, I can only give in general, not you know. For example, I was talking to Farida just now in the room about Batu and so on. I think we managed to increase the academic performance of not all of the families, but at least 40 to 50% of the families. We managed to increase the academic performance of the children.
Fantastic. Anything to add to that, Farida?
Yeah, I mean, I think the PPR flats issue has been an issue that's been studied quite extensively based on the people that I've met in NGOs and other think tanks. And I think the environment, the word that you mentioned about the environment that they live in, because many of these places are quite crowded and they tend to be slightly bigger families. And so it's so crucial that the parents understand that they must provide the environment for the children to thrive, to have that peace of mind, to be able to study and uplift their quality of life.
It is a unique approach lah. But I have to mention also that this approach was first used by Tamil Foundation on the Tamil schools. Now we adopt it, and then of course we also adapt it to the Malay community. We translated into Bahasa Malaysia. We edit it. We also revise it. You know, we did some modifications to the curriculum and so on. And then we did it with the Malay. We didn't do it in schools. We did it to the Malay communities, the PPR flats and so on. So that's a bit different lah. But we found that it was well accepted by the parents. You know, there are 10 modules and so on. So another thing I would like to mention if I may, about this community Rahmah, because in this community Rahmah, it's not only the Malays we are targeting. We are also targeting the Chinese, the Indians, you know, mixed group. Because why? We want the values, the value system to be embodied by all the races in Malaysia. You know, we feel that if we have the same shared values, you know, we can work together. We can collaborate together. We can cooperate together.
Do we want the same shared values? That's the question I'm asking all the time. You know, because
these are universal values.
But they are universal values, Gerald.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
I mean about justice, about wanting peace, you know, wanting the betterment of the country. I think everybody agrees to that. You know, These are the values I'm talking about, lah. You know, want to have the freedom, to have the justice,
Right.
in our society and nation.
Treat each other with respect.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Treat each other with respect, and so uplift ourselves together. In the economic sense and so on. Yeah.
So it's time to move back to Farida, and still on International Women's Day this year, there's a focus on ensuring digital equity, i.e. innovation and technology for gender equity. What do you see as the biggest challenges for digital equity, not just for women, but in general? So we talked about women just now. Let's talk about it in general terms now.
There's a couple of areas. One is about the telcos themselves. And I think this one, the Minister Fahmi has talked about it. But basically, the big picture is that the telcos themselves are not, if you have a monopoly in one area, the other fella cannot come in. So this is the problem. So Fahmi, from what I understand, is about 2 days ago, he said he's talking to all of them about network sharing. So it's about access. It's about whether we can all get access. The area I live in, which is a suburban area, if you look at my, I won't mention the telco, but you look, there's only one bar.
Right.
For my handphone.
Right.
And then I have got a different provider for my internet. So it's very complicated, and we know it's not just rural areas. We know in suburban areas as well. One Taman will have access. Just across the road, another, like there's an Orang Asli area in Dengkil, just 10 minutes away, doesn't have internet access, just across the highway. So this is a big issue. The second one I want to touch on is about students. And this is devices, the cost of devices. Again, it comes back to affordability, internet access as well as smartphones. In 2020, when we were having this COVID issue, I think the MP at that time, I can't remember the name.
One child, one tablet. And
Yeah. They said 2 million children could not afford smart devices that could access the internet.
But the plan was to give each child a tablet or phone.
What happened to that is an issue. So I think, and the final thing that I want to talk about is related to women and girls in particular, in conjunction with International Women's Day, is safety online. We know for a fact, and just from my own browsing and scrolling, I know that women, particularly Malay Muslim women, are the most harassed online. Celebrities, entrepreneurs, journalists, and largely this takes place in terms of the way they look and the way they dress. So this situation, there are a lot of laws already in place. The problem is that it's the Wild Wild West.
Okay.
Social media is the Wild Wild West. Like, how do you control people? But what I have found, my personal experience is, thank God for this, because most Malaysians that I see on my social media are willing to come to the support of those who are being attacked. And so they tell off those people who are being very rude, and victimizing.
So there's a check and balance in and of itself.
There's an organic check and balance. So these are the three issues that I think we talk about digital equity.
To add on to what Farida has mentioned just now.
Quickly, we need to move to Netflix after this.
Actually, women in general, they've got the potential to climb greater heights. Some of them have got the potential even to become, CEOs or
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister. That's what we're aiming for.
I wouldn't dispute that fact, because they have the potential, but we must give them the correct resources for them to live up to that potential.
Right.
That is the thing I think about equity that we want to talk about. So that we can bring the women folk to live up to their potential.
Right.
I'm sure the Malaysian women, and I've seen most of the Malaysian women as well, in terms of thinking, in terms of giving ideas, in terms of implementing projects and so on, they are superb. They are, in my organisation, in IKRAM, we have lots of women folk as well. Actually, we have 60%, 65% of our members are women. But they are great women. They are great women. They are excellent. They do very well. They are very committed. They can do wonders. We must give them the resources.
Right. So while we were celebrating International Women's Day, it was also a time for us to observe what happened 9 years ago with regards to MH370 and Netflix. They rise to the occasion all the time by coming up with programs, to make us think or to make us say a lot more on social media. Now, I haven't watched it. Have you watched the Netflix episode on MH370? Belum lagi. You've watched it.
I watched it over 2 days.
Your thoughts? Yeah.
So my thoughts on it is, there are some conspiracy theories on there I don't particularly agree with. But the point I want to make is this: it's been 9 years. We still have so many questions. And the questions that were raised in there were some valid questions. One is, after 9 years, there's only been 20 pieces of debris that have been found. Only 20 pieces from the world's most sophisticated aeroplane that exists at the moment. What's happened to the debris? Secondly, the plane, if it turned back towards Butterworth and went in the opposite direction instead of Beijing, would have passed through so many different airspaces: Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore. Nobody else recorded anything untoward about a plane flying. And so I think the airspace issue is a big issue. And finally, when are we going to resume the search? For me, when I saw the documentary, the thing that was really hard for me was like seeing the families and the questions. I
think it's something that's hard for all of us.
Yeah. Yes.
It's something. It's the
we
the
all
elephant
remember
in the
where
room.
we were when it happened, right? And we are all wondering the same things. The question is, where a lot of the evidence is also not publicly available. And so I think these are all the questions. And for me, seeing the families and the heartbreak every year on this date, on March 8th, it's like a raw, you take off the scab and it's the raw wound again. So what I understand is Ocean Infinity, which did the last search in 2018, is now talking to Anthony Loke, if I'm not mistaken, and they are now looking at reviving or at least starting another search. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that happens so that the families can have some closure.
Right. G, your thoughts on this before we move into your topic? We've got about 4 minutes more, yeah?
This one, it's heart-wrenching to see the families. I wish there was a closure for the families involved. Quite a lot of them, 239 passengers on the plane. Imagine how many families are involved, how many persons are involved, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, and so on. If I were one of the family, also I would still, want a closure. It's almost 10 years. Then can somebody do something, to find a closure for this? I don't know. I've read about the theories as well. It's not that I don't know anything about it. I've read about the theories. I've read about the possibility of pilot involvement or the conspiracy theories and so on. But I think somehow there must be a closure to it, either from our government or from the other authorities involved in this. There must be some way to close this.
Right.
Just let me just jump in and say, my thing about all of this is somebody somewhere knows what happened.
Right.
And that's the question mark. Right. Who knows and why are they not coming forward?
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do agree with that. I think somebody somewhere knows what happened. Not that we're trying to dig on a scab or anything, but it's the reality. As adults, we use our critical thinking skills, and that's the only thing we can deduce. Somebody somewhere knows what's happening, and we really do hope we get down to the bottom of this. Having said that, our hearts go out to each and everyone involved in it, and everyone else who helped throughout that really difficult period for all of us here in Malaysia. One last topic, yours is for the closing, G, role of CSO leadership in nation building. Off you go. Yeah.
Now, CSOs, civil society organizations, actually are the bridge to the people. So I feel in this way, for us to build a better nation, a better Malaysia, we need to have this synergy between the CSOs, civil society organizations, the government, and also other stakeholders, to collaborate together to build a better Malaysia, to build a better nation. Everybody, each one of us have got their own roles to play, and each one of us actually have got the resources also to play our roles. But we need to talk to each other. We need to discuss. We need to collaborate, find ways, find solutions to the problems that we have in our country. Whether it be social problems or economic problems or education problems or whatever field that we talk about. There are problems, of course, but these problems can be solved if we come together and find solutions to it. We have our own way of thinking. We also have got suggestions for the problems. Where the authorities may have their own way of thinking and looking at it. May have also their own solutions. But let's come together and see how can we do it in a better way. And because sometimes we have people, this working in silos and so on. Some people working here, some people working there, some people working all over there. But in the end, there's no coming together of looking at
so
how
the
can we
big
come
question
together.
is how we're going to come together under this whole Malaysia Madani concept.
Yeah, we have the technology.
Needs leadership.
You were talking about technology just now. You know? We have technology. Technology to do this.
40 seconds left. You want to add on
From
to
a
what you said?
communication perspective,
That's right,
as a communication practitioner, I think we have to stop shouting above one another. And I think we also need to stop looking at the politicians to lead the conversation. I do agree with you. I think that civil society has got lots of ideas. I've got friends in civil society, a lot of data, a lot of ideas. But will they get a seat at the table in an effective way, and also for your solutions and your suggestions to be adopted? Because no point they just meet with you and they say good idea and then go back to business as usual, which I think with the corruption where we started at the beginning, I'm sure they say it's a good idea or whatever, but then where's the political will? So if you ask me, I think the civil society should take ownership of some of this conversation and be the one who's out there in the media talking
we also
about
need
it.
to recognize who's who in civil society, know where we stand within civil society. Now, like you said, our voices are overlapping one another.
That's right.
That needs to stop now.
That's why in civil society, for example, we band together. For example, Rahmah Busters. That's a coordination of 400 over civil societies.
That's another plug, G. That's another plug.
You see, calling for end to corruption.
We'll give it to Rahmah Busters.
Can I just jump in with one last thing?
Last thing,
because
15 seconds.
We are having a huge problem with the brain drain. And I think if we don't sort out the issues, the major issues we have in the country, we're going to keep losing young people. And this is the only home most of us have. We have nowhere else to go. Right.
A good way to think about it as we rest for the weekend. This is the only home we have. We have got nowhere else to go. We need to think a little bit more as to how we want to take this home forward. On that note, I'd like to thank Farida Hamid, our communications coach, great journalist, and also a great commentator for coming in. And Haji, it was a pleasure to have you here for the first time. We're going to see more of you here. Yeah, you belong to us now.
It's a pleasure,
Thank you for staying with us right here on The Nation this week. Have a great weekend, and also stay with us on Bernama TV for more updates. We'll be keeping you updated every hour with regards to what's happening in the nation and also outside. Bye-bye now.